Hello everyone, I am Mrs. Richa Justin Hans and I am Associate Professor in School of Nursing in RIMT University. So the topic of my discussion which I am going to discuss today is pulmonary tuberculosis. So firstly I will be dealing with the introduction. So as we all know that it is one of the most prevalent infections which is occurring in the human beings and all over the world, that is not only in our country, all over the world, and it is contributing to illness, death around the world, and all of us know that it is spread by inhaling tiny droplets of saliva which come out while a person coughs or sneezes who is infected with tuberculosis. So the definition, so it is the infectious disease primarily which affects the lung parenchyma and the virus bacteria which causes it, that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, okay, it may spread to not only just to lungs, it may spread to other parts, that is kidneys, meninges, bones and lymph nodes of our body also. Next are the types. So the first type is pulmonary tuberculosis, which is only limited to the lungs. Next is avian tuberculosis, that is caused by Mycobacterium avium, that comes from the birds. Then is bovine, that comes from the cattle, and the bacteria is Mycobacterium bovis. Next is miliary tuberculosis or disseminated tuberculosis, that is which is spread in other parts of the body, that is if it is in the spine or the meninges or lymph nodes of the body or bones anywhere else. Okay. Next is the incidence. So incidence is that why it has become very common in our population, because of the increased incidence of AIDS, because in AIDS the person is immunocompromised, and because of that tuberculosis is an opportunistic infection in AIDS. So it easily grabs that opportunity and affects the person who is having AIDS, and it is currently estimated that half of the world's population is suffering with Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it almost kills 500 people a day and almost 2.3 million die each year. Next is etiology or the causes. So the first cause is, that is the causative organism, that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, because tuberculosis is a bacterial infection. So the bacteria which causes it, that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Next is due to droplet nuclei. The person who is infected by tuberculosis, when he or she coughs, sneezes or laughs, at that time he or she releases from the breath the droplet nuclei. With the vapors, the droplet nuclei of the bacteria are released, which can be inhaled by a normal human being, and that person can suffer from tuberculosis. Or exposure to tuberculosis. Suppose a person is working in such an environment where people are present who have tuberculosis, or your surrounding is such overcrowded. We will discuss the risk factors. Risk factors are, first is close contact with a person having active tuberculosis, that is at your home. Suppose a person is having tuberculosis, you are in contact with that person, so you are at risk of acquiring that disease. Or at your workplace, especially the health professionals, doctors, nurses or the paramedical staff, they are at risk because they are directly involved in care of active patients of tuberculosis. Then is immunocompromised people, those who are elderly, geriatric people, they have very less immunity, so they are at high risk of acquiring this disease, or people with cancer or people with HIV AIDS. Then is drug abuse and alcoholism, because drug abuse and alcoholism also pose a risk due to decreased immunity, or these people are having some chronic disorders also. Then is people have less knowledge regarding their health care, regarding what kind of precautions they have to follow regarding this disease. Then is pre-existing medical conditions. Suppose a person has chronic disorders like diabetes, renal failure, hypertension or some cardiovascular disorders, that is a risk factor for acquiring tuberculosis. Then immigrants from other countries, those who have higher incidence of tuberculosis, when they travel to some other countries, they spread this disease, so that is a risk factor. Then living in substandard conditions. Substandard conditions are living in overcrowded places, or the house has not ventilation is not proper, and in a small room so many people are living together, so that poses a risk. Then occupation, that I told earlier also, that is the healthcare workers. Next is the pathophysiology. So pathophysiology is how the bacteria is acting upon our body and how the symptoms are appearing. So initial infection or the primary infection when occurs, the microorganism enters through droplet nuclei. The bacteria is transmitted to alveoli through our airways. Through the airway in the lung, it spreads to the alveoli of the lungs. Then it further gets deposited and the bacteria starts growing and multiplying in the alveoli. Then the bacilla is also transported to other parts of the body through our bloodstream. Through the bloodstream from the lungs, the bacteria, it enters to the other parts of the body, and then accumulation of the exudate starts occurring in the alveoli because the bacteria is growing there. So, the mucus and the exudate start accumulating in the alveoli, and because of that the initial symptom that occurs is bronchopneumonia. Then after that, new tissue mass of live and dead bacilli is surrounded by macrophages because our body has its own immune response. So, the body will start destroying those bacteria and macrophages start depositing at that particular place and granulomas start occurring, and these granulomas may get transformed into fibrous tissue, and these fibrous tissues further convert into necrotic cheesy mass which causes lung parenchyma to get destroyed. This mass becomes calcified and becomes collagenous scar. So, scarring of the lung parenchyma starts occurring and bacteria become dormant and no further progression of active disease occurs. So, after this the bacteria will become dormant. It is not live now and the disease is not active, but there is immune response is very inadequate, and because of which again the dormant bacteria may get activated and ulceration starts occurring, and this cheesy material starts releasing into the bronchi also, and bacteria becomes airborne. So, when the bacteria goes into the bronchi, so when the person coughs or when the person sneezes, at that time the bacteria is released from our airway with the help of the droplet. Next is the clinical manifestations or the symptoms. First is constitutional symptoms. The constitutional are the generalized symptoms which occurs in all over the body. First is anorexia, that is loss of appetite. Then is low grade fever. In this the patient will not experience high grade fever, but he or she may experience low grade fever. Then night sweats may occur, fatigue, that is generalized body pain, and lethargy and weight loss. Then are pulmonary symptoms which are only limited to the lungs. These symptoms occur because of the manifestation in the lungs, that is dyspnea, that is shortness of breath, non-resolving bronchopneumonia, chest tightness. The patient experiences very tightness in the chest and he experiences difficulty in breathing. Then cough is there, mucopurulent sputum with hemoptysis. So, the patient will have lot of sputum production, that is mucopurulent, very smelly, and sometimes hemoptysis is there, that is blood comes into the sputum and that is very clearly visible. Red spots of blood are visible in the sputum. Then is chest pain, because of the chest tightness, occurrence of the sputum in the lungs, the person may experience chest pain also. Then are extrapulmonary symptoms. Extrapulmonary symptoms that is not limited to the lungs, that is pain, inflammation and dysfunction of the tissues infected. The tissues which are getting infected due to the bacteria, they are getting dysfunctioned. Now is assessment and diagnostic findings, like how the disease is diagnosed and how it is assessed. First is history collection. History is collected regarding the patient's contact. The person, if he or she gets contacted, the person who is taking the history asks whether you came in contact with any person who was having tuberculosis, the occupation of the person, the socioeconomic status of the person is asked, and what all kind of complaints the person is experiencing, the symptoms the person is experiencing. So, that comes under history collection. Next are the physical examination. In physical examination, what all things are noted? First is clubbing of the fingers or toes. Because of inadequate breathing, the person may experience clubbing of the fingers or toes because of less oxygenation to the peripheral veins. Then is swollen or tender lymph nodes in the neck. In the neck there are lymph node swelling, that is lymphadenopathy, pleural effusion, and when auscultation is done, that is the chest is examined with the help of stethoscope. At that time crackling sound may be observed because of the presence of sputum in the lung parenchyma. Then is diagnostic evaluations are done. First is chest x-ray, then bronchoscopy may be done, then biopsy of the affected tissue, and biopsy is very rarely done. The next test which is done, that is tuberculin test or Montauk's test. It is also called PPD. That is the tuberculous bacilli is injected into the forearm of the person, and then these release the gamma interferons into the blood, and then the investigation is done and the result is taken. You can see tuberculin skin test. So, 0.1 ml of PPD is injected into the forearm, then after 48 to 72 hours the induration is checked at that site. If the induration is equal to or more than 10 millimeters, that means the test is positive and the person is suffering from tuberculosis. Then the next test is quantiferon gold test or QGT. QFT gold test. It measures the interferon gamma in the blood after incubating the blood with specific antigen. So, the blood is injected or taken out from the person's body and it is incubated with the specific antigen of the Mycobacterium tuberculosis proteins, and then it measures the interferons in the blood. Next are the complications of tuberculosis. First is spinal pain. If the bacteria travels into the spine, so the person may experience spinal pain, joint pain may be experienced, meningitis may be there because meninges get infected and inflammation occurs in the meninges of the brain. Then pleural effusion may be there, tuberculous pneumonia may occur, hepatotoxicity, that is the liver may get infected by the bacteria if the patient is not treated promptly, and hypersensitivity reaction can occur, that is any allergic reaction or anaphylactic reaction because of excessive presence of bacteria in the blood. Next is the management. In the management, the first part that we'll discuss is medical management. So, pulmonary tuberculosis is treated, the timing is 6 to 12 months. The pharmacological management is, the first line drugs which are used are, first line are streptomycin, which is 15 mg per kg. So, the dosage of streptomycin is 15 mg, then is isoniazid, that is 5 mg per kg, maximum dose is 300 mg per day. Then rifampicin, that is 10 mg per kg, ethambutol 15 to 25 mg per kg is given for 8 weeks and it may be continued for up to 4 to 7 months. Then second line drugs are capreomycin 12 to 15 mg per kg, ethanomide 15 mg per kg, cycloserine 15 mg per kg, vitamin B, that is pyridoxine, and it is usually administered with isoniazid. INH is isoniazid, both are administered in combination. Then third line drugs are rifabutin, linezolid, thiazidazone and arginine. So, the main treatment that is followed for tuberculosis is DOTS therapy, that is directly observed treatment, short course chemotherapy, and this treatment is given by WHO and it has 5 strategies. The sixth one is not the strategy I have just mentioned. So, the 5 components of strategy for tuberculosis under DOTS is, government is committed including both political at all levels and establishing tuberculosis monitoring, recording and training. So, in DOTS, the government of that particular province or particular state is involved in all aspects of tuberculosis management, prevention, how it is monitored, how it is recorded and providing training to the health professionals in dealing with all these things. Then case detection by sputum smear, microscopy, then standardized treatment regime. So, it has, DOTS has a standardized treatment regime which is given to a healthcare worker, and the healthcare workers are trained to provide this standardized treatment for the people who are suffering with tuberculosis. Then a regular drug supply is there under DOTS which is provided to the patients. Then a standardized recording and reporting system is also available under DOTS, and continuous assessment of the patients is done, how the treatment is, how the patient is recovering, what is the result of the treatment, whether the patient is going into a relapse or the patient is not taking the drugs, everything is covered under DOTS therapy. So, DOTS is especially critical for patients with drug resistant tuberculosis, because if the person is not adhering to the treatment, is not taking the medicines properly, so he or she may go into drug resistant tuberculosis. So, this is very important for people, those who have gone into say this stage. Next is multi-drug therapy. Multi-drug therapy is to treat tuberculosis and the patients who are taking other drugs which are different from anti-tubercular drugs at the same time. Suppose the person is having some chronic disorders, is having diabetes, hypertension, is having cardiovascular disorders. So, in that case, the person is given multi-drug therapy. The standard treatment is isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol and pyrazinamide for 2 months, and the treatment is then continued for at least 4 months with fewer medications. Then the medications are given lesser in amount and the same treatment is followed for at least 4 months. Next is the nursing management. Nursing management is very important for a patient with tuberculosis. So, firstly, the assessment of the patient is done. So, if we have to obtain a complete history, then we have to assess the symptoms of the patient, especially the active disease, auscultation of the lungs for crackles and the drug therapy. So, the first nursing diagnosis which can be made for a patient with tuberculosis is ineffective breathing pattern, which is related to pulmonary infection and potential for long term scarring, because long term scarring occurs. So, how the patient is breathing, so what all things the nurse can do? The nurse will administer and teach self administration of medications, then encourage rest and avoidance of exertion, because if exertion is there, that will increase difficulty in breathing. Then monitoring of the breath sounds, respiratory rates, sputum production and dyspnea is done by the nurse. Then the nurse has to provide supplemental oxygenation if it is ordered and if the patient is having excessive breathing difficulty. Then encourage increased fluid intake, because increased fluid intake will liquidify the sputum and more of sputum can be expectorated and the patient may have proper breathing pattern. Then instruct about best position to facilitate drainage, that is the person may be given semi-Fowler's position which helps in lung expansion, and because of that the drainage of the liquid sputum is facilitated. Then the next nursing diagnosis is risk for spreading infection related to nature of the disease, because the patient may spread this disease to the other people. So, we have to, being nurses, educate the patients that how they can prevent spreading of the infection to the other people. So, the person has to be aware that tuberculosis is transmitted by droplet infection. Then use high efficiency masks for high risk procedures including endoscopy. Then educate patient to control the spread of infection by covering mouth while coughing, sneezing, and the nose and mouth both should be covered properly. Then the isolation of the patient is done. Then instruct about risk of drug resistant tuberculosis, and the person should be taught that he or she has to follow the regime very particularly, otherwise he or she may go into drug resistant tuberculosis and that is more dangerous for the person as well as for the people around them. Then carefully monitor vital signs and observe for temperature changes of the patient. The next nursing diagnosis is imbalanced nutritional status of the patient, less than the body requirement, because the person is experiencing poor appetite, fatigue and productive cough. So, he or she may be taking less food and so that because of that the body's nutritional status is imbalanced. So, for that the nurse has to teach the patient about nutritious diet, especially high protein diet, because that will help in building up the lung parenchyma, the tissue which is destroyed. So, high protein diet is given to the patient and we should explain to the patient that they should take small frequent meals so that they can digest them and it is easy for them. Then we have to monitor the weight of the patient, because weight loss is a very common symptom in patients having tuberculosis. Then administer vitamin supplements as ordered by the physician. Then non-compliance related to lack of motivation and lack of treatment. Sometimes the patients, they are very demotivated or they have to take lot of medications because of that, which they do not, because of that they do not comply to the treatment. So, the nurse has to explain about the etiology, transmission and effects of tuberculosis to the patient as well as the family. Then we have to review the adverse effects of the drug therapy and teach them to the patients. Then participate in observation of medicine taking. Weekly pill counts are done. Then whether the patient has taken the drugs, the pill count is done, so that the person complies to the treatment properly. Explain that the tuberculosis is a communicable disease. We have to explain it to the patient as well as the people, those who are in contact with the patient, that it is a communicable disorder and it is transmitted to other people around the person. So, and the medication is the best possible way by which he or she can be treated and the infection is not spreaded to the other people. Then instruct about medication schedule and side effects, so that the person knows everything about the disease, knows what are the side effects, what is the effect of the drugs and can comply to the treatment. Next is prevention. How we can prevent the spread of tuberculosis? The first point is isolation. The person who is suffering with the disease has to be isolated so that he or she does not spreads the infection to the other people. Then is ventilate the room. The room ventilation should be very proper. Then covering of the mouth and the nose. Then wearing of the mask so that the droplet nuclei does not spread around the environment. Then finish entire course of the medication, and the last is vaccination. Vaccination for tuberculosis is BCG, very commonly given in the immunization schedule in the newborn. The newborn at 0 to 7 days gets the BCG vaccination, and we have to educate the people that they have to get the vaccination, they have to get their children vaccinated, immunized for tuberculosis to prevent this disorder. So, these are the references which I followed for my presentation. Thank you so much.